The Fed hasn't even started hiking rates. They haven't started pulling liquidity from the system. And so I've the whole year thought we'd be a 30,000, 50,000 range in Bitcoin. Risk to the upside, not the downside. But I think, 5 years out, if Bitcoin's not at 500,000, I'm wrong on the adoption cycle, right? We see an adoption cycle that accelerates. Bitcoin grew so much faster last year, crypto grew, than the internet did its best years in the 90s. And so I see this going viral everywhere. If it's in the Mideast or in pension funds in the United States, all getting ready to participate.
Bitcoin billionaire Mike Novogratz in his latest interview gives his outlook on the current crypto market and also reveals why his latest Bitcoin price prediction is $500,000 within the next 5 years. For those unfamiliar with Novogratz, he is an American entrepreneur and veteran of the financial world working for hedge funds such as GoldmanSachs. However, soon after discovering Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, Novogratz decided to go all in on the space and now has over 85% of his $5 billion net worth tied up in crypto. In this video, he explains the shifting Bitcoin narrative and why crypto as a whole is the single greatest opportunity he has ever seen. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where I will cover the latest on-chain Bitcoin data to see if it backs up Novogratz's investment thesis. Also, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. It's free and you can always change your mind.
I think the biggest thing that's happened in the last 10 years in lots of ways, maybe longer, is when Europe, the US said, hey, Russia, those reserves that you thought were yours, they're not really your reserves. So what does that mean? It means the dollar or treasuries as a risk-free asset isn't so risk-free. It's not risk-free if you're Russian, and maybe if you're Chinese, you're like, it might not be risk-free either. And so I think we're entering in a world that's unknown, where people are going to struggle to figure out what is the reserve currency. The US isn't going away. Right? The dollar's not going away, but it's not going to be the sole place. And so I think you're going to see this hodgepodge of assets. Gold, certainly digital assets are going to be part of that bucket. The whole world's not going to flip to Bitcoin overnight, but you're going to see more and more people say, I want to have some of my money outside of the sovereign. The Russian ruble has depreciated over 90% in the last 10 years. Just this year alone, I think high to low is like 65%. The Turkish lira did the same. Bitcoin is a lifeline to people in countries with really poor stewardship of their economy. And we should be thrilled that Russians can get some of their money in Bitcoin so they're not completely broke holding worthless rubles.
Well, that brings me to the question of what the use case is, because in the context we're talking about it, it's essentially as a replacement for fiat currencies. Is that how you view what the future of digital assets is?
Listen,
is it a store of value?
So digital assets is a big word, right? I think Bitcoin has this really beautiful lane of being digital gold or a store of value. Everyone has a human right to have the fruits of their labor stored somewhere. And if you don't trust your government's currency, traditionally we put it in diamonds or gold. This is the first really digital version of that. And so I think that's Bitcoin's use case. Now listen, there's also a lot of other digital assets. There's digital stable coins or digital dollars or euros. There's things, Ethereum, digital networks, NFTs, right? And so the revolution that's happening isn't just in one lane. But I think for Bitcoin, it really is a place you store value. Listen, Bitcoin went up a lot last year on this story of the Fed printing money forever. That's what pushed all risk assets up, right? We had this unbelievable amount of liquidity. And it came off because the Fed, Chairman Powell finally said, hey, I got to take this more seriously than I've been taking it, and I'm going to get hawkish. We're starting to see a little bit of a breakdown. I don't think Bitcoin can rally aggressively until we get a pause. And I would tell you that because Bitcoin's a narrative story. It's bringing people into a community. There are 150 million people into that community. Most are staying in it. Right? That's the 8th biggest country in the world. It's bigger than Russia. So Bitcoin holders are a bigger country if you think it's sovereignty than Russia. But to bring new people in, it's hard when their house is on fire. And right now, if you talk to any investor, Chinese stocks are cratering, tech stocks are cratering. Their mindset isn't like, let me see where I can find more risk. And so we're going to hit a pause. The war will end. Let's pray to God. the Fed will go and we'll start saying, hey, we've priced in the Fed. And once markets hit some equilibrium, I think you're going to see the narrative really take off.
So where would you set a target for year end this year and 5 years out?
Great question. Listen, I think, like the other bald Mike, the NASDAQ has further to go to the downside this year. I think literally the Fed hasn't even started hiking rates. They haven't started pulling liquidity from the system. And so the whole year thought we'd be a 30,000, 50,000 range in Bitcoin. Risk to the upside, not the downside. But I think, 5 years out, if Bitcoin's not at 500,000, I'm wrong on the adoption cycle, right? We see an adoption cycle that accelerates. Bitcoin grew so much faster last year, crypto grew, than the internet did its best years in the 90s. And so I see this going viral everywhere. If it's in the Mideast or in pension funds in the United States, all getting ready to participate. Anybody can participate in the Bitcoin network. I don't need to have a certain level of wealth. I don't need to be in a private equity or a venture fund. I can go on and I can participate. I can build on it. I can invest in it.
And DeFi is part of the big promise as well, right?
Same thing with DeFi, and quite frankly, same thing with NFT communities, right? What is the surprise to me this year is that NFTs have become the killer app of the blockchain. It's the first place we said, hey, we're using this outside of an experiment, outside of a sandbox. We're using it in real life. Artists are making money. Musicians are making money. Big brands are making money. And so I actually think it's the most exciting thing that's going on right now.
So there's Mike Novogratz on why he believes Bitcoin will get to $500,000 over the next 5 years, and if we turn to the data, as you will see, it isn't as insane as it sounds. But first, I'd like to introduce you to Masterworks, the platform that lets you invest in one of the best performing alternative asset classes of all time, contemporary art. Masterworks is an incredible investing app that allows you to invest in fine art. Masterworks is the first and only art investing platform, and as you'll see, it's pretty neat. Here's how it works. Masterworks buys various artworks ranging from $1 to $30 million by world-renowned artists such as Banksy and Picasso. They then securitize these pieces of art, which allows you to buy shares on their site, similar to an IPO. Then, once you own a piece of the artwork, you can choose to either hold onto it until it is sold, at which point you can cash out, or alternatively you can sell your shares on a secondary market to someone else. As you can see, if you are looking to diversify your portfolio away from the typical stock and crypto markets, Masterworks.io is a great alternative. If you want to start investing with Masterworks, there's normally a waitlist, but due to our partnership, I was able to get you guys a link allowing you to skip that waitlist. So if you want to start investing with Masterworks right away, it's as easy as clicking the first link in the description, clicking on the skip waitlist button, and filling out your details. Once you've gone and done that, the next step is to schedule a member interview. Masterworks likes to have a one-on-one conversation with their investors, which is really cool, as you can find out more specific information about various artworks, how they appreciate over time historically, and the overall mechanics of Masterworks. Considering contemporary art has outperformed the S&P 500 by nearly 3x since 1995, yielding an annual return of 13.6% over this period, it is well worth your while to look into diversifying your portfolio into alternative asset classes. Although past performance doesn't guarantee future results, these figures are impressive to say the least. So to get started with Masterworks, check out the first link in the description down below to get started with the first and only art investing platform. But for now, here's some data showing why Bitcoin to $500,000 may not be as insane as it sounds. Mike Novogratz brought up in his interview that crypto last year was adopted at a faster pace than the internet was at any point in its history. And keep in mind that the internet is the fastest adopted technology in all of human history. Out from Raoul Paul and his team at Real Vision, we have some data on this adoption quantified. As you can see, crypto is outperforming the internet in terms of rate of adoption, and if it continues like this over the next 5 years, we can realistically expect between 1 to 3 billion crypto users. At that amount of users, a $500,000 Bitcoin does not seem out of the question at all. On top of this, we have some on-chain data out from Will Clement showing the supply shock ratio is virtually going vertical. This means more so than lately, more of the Bitcoin supply is being held by long-term, strong holders than ever before, even despite all of the uncertainty. With all this bullish data, a $500,000 Bitcoin 5 years out does not seem unreasonable. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed today's video and that provided you with some value. I'll see you all in the next video, and as always, have a great day.